Whether they know it or not, Velma, the show, has played its entire hand for the world to see. And if you don't know by now, the ongoing mystery of the show is figuring out who's been killing the teens across the town and stealing their brains. Spoiler alert, it's Fred's mom. Now, the show built up Fred's mother within the 9th episode before the big reveal, and I found it confusing how little she shows up. Sure, we see her next to Fred's father often, but so little is known about her that even if I were trying to be a fan and speculate, you give me way more social and political referential comedy than actual clues in what is supposed to be an adult-oriented mystery. In addition to that, these episodes were not written with the mystery at the forefront of your focus, or even written to be a foreboding threat or ticking clock that the protagonist has to deal with. When Velma gets the ultimatum that she needs to find the culprit in the first episode, they were more than happy to arrest Fred. Wrongfully. Despite having 2 chances to take accountability for her actions directly to Fred, Velma never apologizes for what she's done.
So it looks like Fred isn't connected to your mom's disappearance. Good news, right?
No, it's terrible news. It means my big clue is a dead end and Fred is probably innocent.
Yeah, but isn't it a little comforting to see a rich white guy get wrongly convicted for once?
I'm too distracted to enjoy it.
The first time was in the 3rd episode, which was written weirdly, by the way. How was she able to exit a high school publicly with the principal hearing it, yet return later on the same day? But anywho, she gets a hallucination and never ends up speaking to Fred, so she never ends up taking accountability for her actions. The second time, she does speak to Fred, no hallucinations here, but only to get him to objectify women, then look at him in disgust for doing something that she specifically sought him out for. In fact, with that plotline, what did it matter which girls you ranked in that list? Velma doesn't care for the popular girls, and if we were speaking morally here, if there's more than 5 girls at that school, which there are, then your list potentially is going to get some killed. And you're leaving that fate to a man who objectifies them? Why would she care this much? It's not even a list of 5 people, it shouldn't be. It should be a list of Daphne and whatever 4 names she can come up with in 5 seconds. I bring this up to say that the mystery did not matter to Velma as much as finding her mom, who just so happened to be tangled up in the mystery, and is the driving factor for the dynamics between herself and Daphne, but also Velma and Fred in some aspects. So in that sense, if the mystery didn't matter to the main character, and it doesn't matter in the writing, who cares if these girls get murdered? Genuinely. Like, someone answer this. The town is largely the same person, just someone written to be willfully ignorant to set up a narrative that Velma is perceived to be smarter and more aware of what's going on in the town. You know, when people were getting attacked in Avatar, for example, we got to visit the villages and settlements and we saw the people, so it had a lot of emotional weight to see their homes destroyed. And now we're getting to how Velma has shown its entire hand, because if the mystery didn't matter, then what did matter in the show? The show largely revolved around the fake love quadrilateral, which was discussed in the previous video, but also Velma's mother. Everything else did not matter in the grand scheme. Not Daphne's arc, not Gigi and Norville, not Velma's father and stepmother, not the school, nothing mattered. Every episode circles back to Velma's mother, and she's built up as being the emotional and perhaps even mental foundation for Velma, which would imply that Velma would become whole, or become better, or even change when she's able to reconnect with the person who went missing years ago. And that sucked too in the show.
Who am I, Jean-Paul Sartre? Did you get that, Mom? No exit? Like Sartre's seminal play about hell?
I do! Very good! I've missed you constantly seeking my approval.
You might wonder why I call her Velma's mother and not Dia. I feel like calling her by her name is doing more effort to distinguish her as an actual character in the show than the actual writing. I will admit that we as a community are quick to throw out the term plot device when describing a character, so to prove it, let's go through everything significant that Dia does in the show herself. She rescues Velma and company when they find her via driving the not mystery machine and that's it? Wait, did you check underneath too? And that's it. Her character is largely passive and reactive to other people's actions and other people's motivations. And the cherry on top is that she suffers from amnesia for a large part of her already brief appearance in this season, which means that she doesn't really do much of anything of importance because she can't even remember who she is. They spend a majority of Family Woman keeping her in the dark about Amon, Velma's father, and Sophie, Velma's stepmother's relationship, to which when she figures it out, gives such an underwhelming reaction. When it comes to the mystery plot, she only exists to give clues to the culprit, including her brainwashing, which wasn't even really her, but Fred's mother's doing. When it comes to Dia and Velma, she's just an older version of Velma, but not genetically, where it's like, oh, you're just like your mother. No, I mean, the way that they write Dia is just taking how they would write Velma and just adjust it for amnesia. Speaking of Family Woman, that entire episode is about keeping Dia in the dark with lies about Amon's faithfulness and Velma's intelligence. And that's when we get to the next part of this hand. Velma was not portrayed as intelligent at all. So on top of the mystery being pushed aside and the supposed true goal, Dia, being a plot device at the end of the day for a watered down mystery, the actual detective here, Velma, is not smart or morally good. Here's a truncated list of things that she gets wrong in this season. She accuses Fred of being involved with the murders. He was not. She assumes that Daphne's reason for selling drugs is for a vapid reason. It was not. She assumes that the popular girls focus on looks because of societal pressure. They do not. She assumes that she can change her own look and blend in with the kids without them smelling a fake. Her assumption was wrong. She assumes multiple times that Norville is joking about his feelings with Velma. He was not. She assumes that Norville's father was a killer. He was not. She assumes that Amon's relationship with Sophie was surface level. It was not. She assumed that Amon was spending time with her again to rekindle their relationship. He was not, and admittedly, to be fair, Amon was doing a lot of manipulating, but regardless, she did not see past it for a while. She assumes Daphne avoids Velma and her feelings about Velma because now that Daphne's hot, Daphne only wants to associate with the popular kids. That wasn't the reason. She assumed that reading Daphne's journal and exposing that she goes to the school counselor would destroy her popularity. It did not. She assumed that she can hear about her mother's disappearance without having hallucinations. She could not. And all of this is not even getting into the morally wrong things either, like forcing herself onto Daphne as a guy under false pretenses, manipulating Gigi into giving her information that Norville did not want shared because she knew there wasn't any other way to have leverage over that situation. Again, leaking Daphne's journal, a private book for the public to hear, demeaning Sophie because of her occupation, intentionally getting in the way of Gigi and Norville's relationship in general, lying about her hallucinations to trick Daphne into accompanying her to Mount Crystal Woods, pressuring Norville to break his journalistic integrity to create a headline that Velma cannot substantiate, and also getting math answers from Norville.
I don't want to do our math homework together. Just email me your answers like always.
Yes, of course.
So now we get to the main part of Velma's hand, and it's the most beautiful aspect, because we're at this stage where we know what the show wants to be, and when that second season comes along, I don't anticipate it having the same effect as it has in the first season, because what's the show going to do? Bring in a Great Dane and not call it Scooby? Have Fred and Norville date each other just because? Bring in Scrappy-Doo? It won't have the same effect because if you didn't enjoy the first season, but you watched it out of morbid curiosity, a lesser amount of people are going to do that again. Sure, I anticipate some moments to get clipped and shared around, but nothing to the level of its premiere, so the best hope for Velma is that at the very least, it had other things to fall back on, right? No. It didn't. So the only other card that Velma has is just a hope that their outrage marketing works again, which, as we've established, now that people know that the show isn't good and just has the leverage of a franchise that people cared about, it doesn't matter what Velma writes for the next season. Not only that, but in an online space where every other media company knows that anger sells, people will simply just have newer, fresher, or cooler things to hate on around the time of the second season. And hating on the old, already fully covered thing isn't gonna have the same effect. Imagine if I made a video talking about how bad SpongeBob was in season 6 to 7, or how awful the Minions Facebook memes are, or how Teen Titans Go is overplayed, or the Loud House is the same episode over and over. It's a topic that's been covered to death. It has no appeal, even in a hate watch sense, because it's over. It's not even entertaining to hate on anymore. Even videos like the one I'm making here, especially how late it's coming out, it runs the risk of being presented to an audience that is done hearing negative energy towards Velma. There's other new things now. However, the inverse is not true. We love hearing about the awesome stuff of yesterday. It's called nostalgia. A lot of channels, including myself, built upon that. So basically, even if Velma's second season has the most offensive material, and even if there is a new mystery or romance to be farmed, because of the hand that Velma has dealt with this season, it's already dated. And it's already old news, even though it hasn't even came out yet. So, good luck, and wake me up when the next Scooby-Doo show has a release date.